We'll be covering chapters 14 and 15. I'm going to provide an introduction to neurology and endocrinology. Our learning objectives for chapter 14 are to describe the medical specialty of neurology, understand the function of the nervous system, define neurology-related combining forms, prefixes, and suffixes, identify the structures related or treated in neurology, build neurology medical terms from word parts, explain neurology medical terms, and use neurology abbreviations. Neurology is the branch of medicine that diagnoses and treats nervous system conditions. A neurologist treats brain, spinal cord, and nerve conditions, as well as muscle conditions related to the nervous system. A neurosurgeon performs surgical procedures to treat nervous system conditions. The nervous system coordinates body's activities. It receives information from sensory receptors, and then that information is used to adjust muscle and gland activity. We divide the nervous system into two parts: the central nervous system, which consists of the brain and spinal cord, and we abbreviate it CNS, and the peripheral nervous system that consists of the nerves that go between the CNS and the other organs, and we abbreviate that PNS. Nervous structures are composed of neurons, and neurons conduct electrical impulse that carry information between the CNS and the body. Neurons meet at a synapse, and the synaptic cleft is a gap between the neurons. Impulses are transmitted across that synaptic cleft via neurotransmitters. Many neurons are covered by myelin, which acts as an insulator that improves impulse conduction. Organs that are commonly treated in neurology include the brain. The brain is the center for thought, memory, emotion, and judgment. It coordinates body's activities. The right brain controls the left side of the body, and the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. The brain is subdivided into the cerebrum, cerebellum, thalamus, and brainstem. The cerebrum is the largest and uppermost and outermost portion of the brain. It receives sensory information and it integrates incoming messages and selects responses and then sends back motor commands. It's going to be divided into the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobes that you can see here. The cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain. It's located below the posterior cerebrum, and it works closely with the cerebrum to coordinate body movement and maintain balance. The brainstem is made up of three parts. The midbrain is a pathway that conducts impulses between the brain and the spinal cord. The pons connects the cerebellum to the rest of the brain, and the medulla oblongata connects the brain to the spinal cord. The medulla oblongata also controls respiration, heart rate, temperature, and blood pressure, and it is the most inferior part of the brain. The spinal cord extends from the medulla oblongata to the second lumbar vertebra, and it provides a path for messages traveling to and from the brain. Sensory information enters the gray matter via dorsal roots and rises through ascending tracts of white matter. Motor commands move through descending tracts of white matter and exit the gray matter via ventral roots. The meninges form a three-layer protective sac around the brain and the spinal cord. The outer layer is the dura mater, the middle layer is the arachnoid layer, and the inner layer is the pia mater. Cerebrospinal fluid circulates in the subarachnoid space found between the arachnoid layer and the pia mater. A nerve is a bundle of neurons that carries messages between the CNS and the body. Sensory nerves carry information to the central nervous system, whereas motor nerves carry messages from or away from the central nervous system. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves that are attached to the brain, and there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves that are attached to the spinal cord. Here are some neurology combining forms that you will need to know. Algiso refers to a sense of pain. Cerebello, cerebellum, cerebro, cerebrum, encephalo, the brain, aesthesio, sensation, medullo refers to the medulla oblongata, meningo refers to meninges, myelo, spinal cord, neuro, nerve, ponto, pons, radiculo, nerve root, and thalamo refers to the thalamus. Angio is a vessel, cephalo, head, electro-electricity, hemato, blood, hydro, water, lumbo, low back, myo, muscle, sclero, hardening, spino, spine, tomo means to cut, and vasculo refers to blood vessel. Okay, let's review some suffixes. Al pertaining to algia, pain. Ar and ari pertaining to asthenia, weakness. Seal is a protrusion. Eel is pertaining to ectomy, surgical removal. Esthesia is a sensation condition. Gram, a record. Graphy, process of recording. Ich, ein, pertaining to itis is inflammation. Logist is one who studies, and logi, the study of. Malacia, abnormal softening. Oma is a tumor or mass. Osis, abnormal condition. Otomy, cutting into. Paresis, weakening. Pathy, disease. Phasia, speech. Plasty, surgical repair. Plesia, paralysis. Raphy, to suture. Sclerosis, hardening. Tic, pertaining to trophic development. A and an without, anti, against. D without, die, to. Dis, painful, difficult, or abnormal. Hemi, half. Hyper, excessive. Mono, one. Para, two like parts of a pair. Beside. Poly, many. Quadri, four. Sub, under. That's the end of chapter 14. Here are the learning objectives for chapter 15. Endocrinology. You need to be able to describe the medical specialty of endocrinology, understand the function of the endocrine system, define endocrinology-related combining forms, prefixes, and suffixes, identify the organs treated in endocrinology, build endocrinology medical terms from word parts, explain endocrinology medical terms, and use endocrinology abbreviations. Endocrinology is a subspecialty of internal medicine. Endocrinologists diagnose and treat conditions that affect the endocrine system. The endocrine system consists of glands that secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream. Hormones adjust the activity of specific target organs to regulate an array of bodily functions. The endocrine system helps to maintain a stable internal body environment called homeostasis. Glands may secrete too much hormone, called hypersecretion, or too little hormone, called hyposecretion. When this occurs, the hormone's target organ functions improperly and homeostasis is disrupted. Some endocrine glands are found in all humans. So all humans have 2 adrenal glands, 4 parathyroid glands, a pancreas, pineal gland, pituitary gland, thymus, and thyroid. Sex-specific endocrine glands include the 2 ovaries in females and the 2 testes in males. The pineal gland is a small pine cone-shaped structure in the thalamus. It secretes melatonin, which helps to regulate the body's circadian rhythm. The pituitary gland is a small marble-shaped structure that hangs from the brain. It's called the master gland because some of the hormones it secretes regulates the activity of other endocrine glands. The pituitary secretes a lot of different hormones. The hormones that are secreted by the anterior lobe of the pituitary include growth hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, prolactin, melanocyte-stimulating hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. The posterior lobe secretes antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. The thyroid gland consists of 2 lobes on either side of the trachea. It secretes thyroxine and triiodothyronine, which regulates metabolism. It also secretes calcitonin, which lowers blood calcium levels. The 4 parathyroid glands are located on the posterior surface of the thyroid. They secrete parathyroid hormone, which raises blood calcium. The thymus is located behind the sternum and above the heart. It secretes thymosin, which is very important in immune system development. The thymus begins to shrink during puberty, and it's eventually replaced by fatty tissue. 1 adrenal gland sits on top of each kidney. The outer adrenal cortex secretes several hormones: aldosterone that regulates sodium and potassium levels, cortisol that regulates carbohydrate metabolism, and sex hormones including estrogen and testosterone. The inner adrenal medulla secretes epinephrine, which helps the body respond in emergencies. The pancreas functions as both an endocrine and an exocrine organ. The endocrine portion consists of pancreatic islets, which secrete insulin and glucagon. Insulin lowers blood sugar by allowing sugar to enter cells, whereas glucagon raises blood sugar by stimulating the liver to release stored sugar into the bloodstream. The exocrine portion secretes digestive enzymes into the pancreatic duct, which we learned about earlier when we studied the digestive system. The ovaries release reproductive cells called ova, as well as female sex hormones. Estrogen produces female secondary sex characteristics and regulates menstruation. Progesterone maintains the uterus for pregnancy. The testes release sperm and testosterone. Testosterone produces male secondary sex characteristics and regulates sperm production. Here are some endocrinology combining forms. Adeno gland, adreno refers to the adrenal gland, and so does adrenalo. Crino, to secrete. Gluco, glucose. Glyco refers to sugar. Glycoso, also sugar. Oophoro, ovaries. Aurico, testes or testis. Ovario, ovary. Pancreato, pancreas. Parathyroido, parathyroid gland. Pinealo, pineal gland. Pituitario, pituitary gland. Testicular refers to the testis. Thymo, thymus. Thyro, thyroid gland. And thyroido, also thyroid gland. Here are a few other combining forms that will help you build terms, and they're not necessarily related to the endocrine system. Acro, extremities. Carcino, cancer. Cyto, cell. Ophthalmo, eye. Oro, mouth. And toxico, poison. Let's review some suffixes. Al, an, and r refer to pertaining to. Synthesis, puncture to withdraw fluid. Sight, cell. Dipsia, thirst. Ectomy, surgical removal. Edema, swelling. Emia, blood condition. Ick, pertaining to. Ism, state of. Itis, inflammation. Logis, one who studies. Logi, the study of. Malacia is an abnormal softening, and megaly means enlarged. A meter is an instrument for measuring. Oid, resembling. Oma is a tumor or mass. Osis is an abnormal condition. Otomy means cutting into. Pathy, disease. Pexy, surgical fixation. Plasty, surgical repair. Rexus is to rupture. Urea is a urine condition. Endo means within or inner. Ex, outward. Hyper is excessive. Hypo is below or insufficient. Poly is many. That's the end of chapter 14 and 15. In the next video, we will work through building neurology and endocrinology terms. Before you watch that video, go and look in your chapters 14 and 15 and work through building the terms, and then we can come back and see how you did.